Okay, so now we're ready. We learned yesterday about this is called the coordinate plane, and how to find a point on a coordinate plane. Today we're going to talk about ways to graph. And there are three basic ways to graph a line. And I'm going to teach you all three, but today we're going to talk about two of those three because it entails a lot of information. So, first one we're going to talk about is the XYT chart. It's called an XYT chart because it uses a X, a Y, and a big old T. That was hard, huh? The XYT chart relies on you doing some math. So you have to pick 3 points, and it doesn't matter what points you pick. They can be any 3 points that you want them to be, but you do need to make sure that when you pick those 3 points that one of them is positive, one of them is negative, and one of them is 0. That's an easy number to always choose, a 0. Now, it's nice to pick 1 and -1 if you want, but I usually do 0, 2, and -2 because it gives you a better picture of what's going on. If you get really big numbers like 5 and -5, they tend to fly off your graph, and it makes it difficult in knowing what to do. So I've picked my three numbers just out of the clear blue sky. I tend to stick with these numbers no matter what, unless there's an occasion where it's easier to use a different number. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So next, I take this equation that they gave me and I plug those numbers in and see what I get. So it says y equals 3, and in place of x, I'm going to put the 0 that we chose for the first one, plus 2. So that means y equals 3 times 0 is 0 plus 2. So y is equal to 2. So up here for my y, I'm going to put 2. Plugged in 0, we got out 2, 0, 2. For the next one, we have y equals 3, and then I'm going to multiply by 2. Plus 2. So y is equal to 6 plus 2, so y is equal to 8. See, we're already getting bigger numbers just with 2. And then for the next one, I have y is equal to 3 times, in this case it's -2 plus 2. So that means y equals -6 plus 2, so y equals -4. Now that I've matched them up, all I need to do is create my points, because those are my coordinates that I'm going to use. So now I have to find those coordinates on my coordinate plane. That's this thing over here. So the point 0, 2, start from here, go left and right 0, and then up 2. That's that dot. And then the point 2, 8, go left or right, in this case right 2 because it was positive, and then up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, almost off my picture now. And then I have to go left 2 and down 4. 2, 4. Put a dot. Now, this is when you need a straight edge. Excuse me. And I don't have very many here, but I do have a nail file, so I'm going to use my nail file. It's available. When you're using your straight edge, you see how I line it up so that you can see each individual dot just barely? I also can check and make sure by putting my pen down right here that it actually lines up with each one before I ever draw my line. Now you need to make sure that you put arrows on your line because that tells you that it keeps on going forever and ever in that direction. Now, I know how particular you are about making sure everything is perfect, and that will come in really handy, but I don't want you to get so bogged down with making sure that it's perfect that it takes you too long to work on. So I'm going to let you pause to do these next two, and then I'm going to let you see how fast I do these next two. So while you're paused, make sure you kind of time yourself to see how long it actually takes you to graph them. Okay? So go ahead and pause and do the next two problems. I did one, you do two. That's the rule for this packet. Okay. So I don't know what numbers you picked, but I really do like picking my 0, 2, and negative 2. Oops, that's a minus 1. So y equals 0 minus 1, so y equals negative 1. Two times 2 minus 1. 4 minus 1, so y is equal to 3. 2 times negative 2 minus 1. Negative 4 minus 1, so y equals negative 5. So that's the point 0, negative 1. The point 2, 3. And then the point negative 2, negative 5. It's down there. I didn't use the straight edge. I tend to be able to draw pretty straight. Lots of practice on the board. Just saying. So for the next one, this one isn't solved for y yet. These were both solved for y. This one isn't solved for y yet. You can, if you choose, go ahead and solve it for y, or you can solve each individual one. I'm going to go ahead and plug them in the way they are. 0 plus 2y is equal to 4. That means 2y is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 2, y is equal to 2. 2 plus 2y is equal to 4. So 2y is equal to 2, y is equal to 1. So negative 2 plus 2y is equal to 4. Two y is equal to 6. Divided by 2, y is equal to 3. 0.02, 2, 1, negative 2, 3. Line it up, draw it out. Even if the line you draw isn't straight, I'll at least be able to tell where your points are down here and up there, so I would know what your answer would be. That is the XYT chart. That is the most basic way, the way that always works every single time, and sometimes because it's the first one they learn, it's the one people like best. But we have to learn about some other things too. There is more. This is the next page. It might be hard for you to find this page, but go ahead and look for it. It starts with question. Is the point blah 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 a solution for blah blah blah? And then what about this one? If something is a solution, that means that it'll work. Makes a true statement. So in order to find out if this point is a solution for this, I just need to use this point in this to see if I get a true statement. So instead of writing y, I know that this is my x and this is my y. I'm going to plug it in so that it's, instead of writing y, I write 6. Instead of writing x, I put in my 2. So that means 6 is equal to half of 2 is 1 plus 5. 6 is equal to 6. True statement. Yes, it is a solution. You try 4-1. So this is your x, this is your y. That would be 1 equals 1/2 times 4 plus 5. 2 plus 5, does 1 equal 7? Nope. Not a solution. That's just so you understand when people ask if something is a solution, not whether or not it's going to be one. Now, we've talked about graphing with the XYT chart. The next one we're going to talk about is graphing with intercepts. Intercepts are different. So we have to talk about what an intercept is. An intercept is where a graph crosses the x or y axis. In order to find an x-intercept, you put a 0 in place of y and you solve for x. To find the y-intercept, you put a 0 in place of x and you solve for y. So this is the same line. We've got two different things we're going to have to do. First we're going to find the x-intercept with this one, and then we're going to find the y-intercept with that one. When I go to find the x-intercept over here, I have to put a 0 in place of my y. So now it's 5x minus 2 times 0 is equal to 10. So that means that 5x is equal to 10. Divide both sides by 5, and you get x is equal to 2. This is not your intercept. This is what x is. Your intercept is a point. So that's the point to 0. I know 0 is my last one because that's what I plugged in for y. I plugged in 0, so that has to be my y, and my x is my 2. For the other side, we have to put a 0 in place of x. So that's 5 times 0 minus 2y is equal to 10. So 0 minus 2y equals 10. Negative 2y equals 10. Divide both sides by negative 2. Y is equal to negative 5. But that's not my intercept. My intercept is the point 0, negative 5. When you graph by intercepts, you take the two intercepts that you have and you put them on your graph. So my intercept to 0 is left and right 2, so that's there, up and down 0. My intercept for 0, negative 5 is left and right 0, down 5, so that's that point. In order to graph this line, all I have to do is connect these 2 points. Simple as that. Now, some people like using intercepts better than they do using the XYT chart. The XYT chart works all the time. Using intercepts doesn't work all the time. It works most of the time. When you use intercepts like this, sometimes your x-intercept and your y-intercept will end up being the same thing. And that could be a problem. Sometimes when you use intercepts like this, it's hard to tell because you only have one x or you only have one y. That could be a problem. Or you don't have an x or you don't have a y. That could be a problem. So intercepts won't always work, but it's less work when you do it because we're only having to solve 2 times instead of having to solve 3 times. That's the big difference. So look at the next page. I did one problem by intercepts. Let's have you do 2. See how good you can do. Remember I said we have to do 2 different kinds of things for each problem. So over here, when I want to find the x-intercept, I plug a 0 in place of y. So 2x minus 3 times 0 is equal to 6. 2x minus 0 is equal to 6. 2x is equal to 6. X is equal to 3, which is the point 3, 0. Then I put in 2 times 0 minus 3y is equal to 6. So 0 minus 3y is equal to 6. Negative 3y is equal to 6. Divide both sides by negative 3. Y is equal to negative 2. So now I can come down here and graph those. 3, 0, 0, negative 2. Looks like that. And then for this one, you have negative 4x plus 8 times 0 is equal to negative 12. Negative 4x plus 0 equals negative 12. Negative 4x equals negative 12. X is equal to 3. And then you go back, negative 4 times 0 plus 8y is equal to negative 12. Negative 12 over 8. But that's not your answer. You need to reduce that. Negative 12 over 8 is negative 3 over 2, which is roughly negative 1.5 or minus 1.5. It's easier to see it this way on this graph than it is to see it that way because we're plotting a point. Oh, wrong spot though. So when I go to put in my 3, 0, that's right there, and my 0, negative 1.5. It was almost the same problem. Okay, so we have done practice work on how to graph using the XYT chart. We have done practice work on how to graph using intercepts. We talked about what intercepts were and how to find intercepts. So you should be all good now for some homework. Page 397. Oh, sorry, 378. That would have been bad, huh? Numbers 1 3, 5, 7, 17, and 29. When you do these, since they're having you graph them, go ahead and do it on a piece of graph paper. Like, do it all on a piece of graph paper. Just one sheet, hole punch it, stick it in there just like you would regular notebook paper. So you don't have to stress it, just like these pages are hole punched for you. So go ahead and take care of that, and we will talk tomorrow.